So right now, first of all, we're sliding into Thanksgiving week, and I want you to have, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving with your family. Don't talk any more politics. Tell everybody to take it easy on Facebook. We got to get along for this one day, right? Please, right? So, I do have friends. I do know people who, Thanksgiving has become kind of the, challenged holidays. People always talk about the war on Christmas. I don't really think there's a war on Christmas, although that's a whole other debate and topic, and I get it. I get that discussion anyways. I don't think it's like an unfounded fear for some people. But Thanksgiving, because of the connotations of the relationship of the Puritans with the natives and the history that we've just seen, and then a lot more vegans in the world and vegetarians, it takes on different connotations for people. For me personally, I like the idea of family getting together and talking about Thanksgiving and being appreciative for all that you have. And I think that you can do that with or without a turkey, and I think that you don't have to, you can use whatever historical imagery you want. Again, I always say you can celebrate America the way that you want, regardless of where that may or may not clash with your values. So that's just my little thought on, Thanksgiving. So whatever. I hope you have a good one. And so we're also starting this week. You better have this book. This is crucial. Defending Slavery. And this is very important that you do this reading. This is giving you insight into the way people who believed in slavery defended it and how they reasoned about it. So you have to read this text. Okay, so now we're switching gears into this. This week I do a little bit different. I'm always not sure if this is the best approach, but for now I'm keeping it. You're basically just going to watch a film, a popular American film, a blockbuster hit, a silent film that celebrated the KKK. And the reason why I'm having you watch this as we're going in the next week into the U.S. Civil War is I just want you to see how I want it to sink in that our culture has never really resolved the legacy of the Civil War, the legacy of slavery, and the legacy of racism. And I think that might help us understand more of why we're having so much problems with that still. So again, is that the right approach? Should I be having us watch this film and learning about the director and his methods and motives and reasons why? Good question. But I think what's important is this. This film gets talked about a lot. The Birth of the Nation, the original film, the original Birth of the Nation, is seen as one of our most infamous, important films in American history that most people will never watch because, first of all, it's like 3 hours long and it's really slow. And then its message is really disturbing. Now, what I said, if you look in the reading and viewing section, I say watch about 2 hours and then watch the last 30 minutes. Okay, that should be enough. You could probably get away with a little bit less than that. I want you to get the overall feel for this though. So there it is. Now, having said that, I feel compelled to kind of just mention something that I've been researching on the current political environment that we're having. And I want you to bear with me on this because, again, the issue of Trump and what's happening in this election and what happened, I don't want to... I've been torn about how much I want to say about everything because I don't like making students feel like I'm shoving a particular political agenda. And at the same time, my research is showing me some things that are bothering me enough that I can't teach this current section of our history and not make certain points that I think that we should just be paying attention to. So the fact of the matter is, whether one agrees or disagrees with Donald Trump, I think it would be kind of ridiculous to not see that the kind of combative campaign style that he had tapped into a lot of anger that people were rightfully upset. Maybe that's what some argue about the state of affairs. Hillary Clinton was not trusted. The Democratic Party has not been trusted. The media seems to be biased. Then there's all of these kind of issues that made Donald Trump popular. But the texture of his language, I'm not even going to use the word term racist. It's like we've been upset and it's instigated some things. And I think I talked about this in one of my last announcements. But it gets a little bit more grim than this, I feel like. His speech was so unifying when he got, when he discovered he won. Excuse me. And then he invited Bannon into the White House. Steve Bannon. And there's a lot of talk about him and talk of what to make about him. So I just want to kind of give you some things to go on and you can decide for yourself, because the media, all the media is such garbage that you can't know what to trust or not. So I just want to kind of help you just look to the sources. Steve Bannon, I don't see him say a lot of controversial things other than he sounds like a regular good old conservative right-wing kind of guy, and you can be on that side of the fence or not. But then it gets a little bit more concerning to some people. So he was an editor for this magazine, this media outlet called Breitbart. Breitbrt, I believe. And Breitbart was originally set up by an American Jewish man, and it was mainly, according to what I studied, to be kind of to combat people who were critics of Israel, and had a conservative tone. And then he died at my age, and Bannon took over that media center. And under that time, it changed in certain tone. And he claimed that sources show in interviews that he claimed that he made this a kind of outlet for the alt-right. The alt-right means short for alternative right, and it's a movement. You can't necessarily pin down a precise definition on the alt-right. And as I was studying, and many sources were saying, sometimes people claim that they're a part of the alt-right movement, not knowing that there is an actual group of people who have started this idea, who have a much more different ideology than maybe they have. In other words, the alt-right does have an ideology. So on one hand, I'm saying it's harder to pin down. On the other hand, the alt-right, if you look at their sources, when I'm going to get to that in a second, have a very precise set of ideas. And they keep telling us, and I've seen from Breitbart, there's a guy named Milo Yiannopoulos. He's this man who tells everybody he's gay, he's Jewish, and it's ridiculous to say that this is a racist and some sort of evil news source and mocking, criticizing the alt-right. After all, he's a gay, there's Jewish people in this, so don't start screaming Nazi, folks. Okay, so yeah, that's true. It's true that there are many Jewish people writing for them, and you have gays, so okay. But then you actually look at the alt-right, and I looked at Breitbart's article itself by Milo, who's mocking all of us, or anybody else, should I say, that's making this kind of statement. And then he refers to Richard Spencer. And then that's a game changer to me. Because then you look up Richard Spencer, S-P-E-N-C-E-R, and he is one of the founders of the alt-right movement. And you can just look up his words. He's not super popular. He has like maybe 13,000 hits on average of his YouTube. But he is very intelligent, and I think that he's a white nationalist. You can look up his lecture on why they hate us. And it's pretty much Nazism in a different form. And the question is, though, does this have this link to Trump? And how concerned should we be about Bannon I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's linked with that. He could just be a businessman who wanted to promote that, which is still disturbing. But what's going on? I think these are just the concerns that some people have as to how could someone in the White House have any kind of link back to these kind of groups. Now, what is the message of the alt-right? They actually hate conservatives, and this is something that I think everybody should be aware of. The alternative right actually claims that conservatism is the main obstacle to their vision. They blame immigration and the basically that the white America and white Europe, but they're really focusing on the U.S. in the case of Richard Spencer, that they're the ones that facilitated mass immigration and messed up the country. That's what they're really saying. And they have a book that one guy wrote. His name is Vox Day, with a guy named I think it's Red Feather or Red Eagle, and it's called "Cuck-Servatives: How Conservatives Betrayed America." And so they have a radically different idea about what it means to be right-wing, and what they admit, and if you look at their writings, they link themselves to the European right that's growing right now. And there's someone named Le Pen in France that's perhaps set to win, and that is also an anti-immigrant party. And we see what happened with Brexit. And there's one thing that unifies many of these alternative thinkers, some Jewish, some gay, and many who are just white men. And that's a distaste for Muslims, refugees, and immigrants. And in particular, Islam. And so my fear, and what is I can't get out of my head, is I kind of feel like the Muslim is slowly becoming the new Jew. I mean, I just want to say this, and forgive me for being alarmist, but I feel like I want to have this dialogue now so that we're actually thinking kind of like on a certain level. After 9/11, we rightly were all very sad, and we stood up in solidarity. I got my U.S. flag out. Many of us did. And we stood in solidarity with each other. And then in Modesto, shortly after, I saw all these Confederate flags fly up, and people were angry. And then the Patriot Act came. And then we went to war with the country that didn't attack us, Iraq. And we were willing to give up a lot of rights and to do a lot of things that we normally wouldn't do. And I'm just asking, under this current environment, with these kind of people coming to power under these kind of ideas that don't even actually necessarily have conservative value. They're not even, this isn't just like liberal versus conservative anymore. This is like some people with a very different vision of the world. This is identity politics. This is white nationalism. That's what it is. And there's one place that even liberals and progressives are not sure about. It's because of the terrorist question. Muslims. There's a fear. And there is a real terrorist threat. But blaming all Muslims and using them as a scapegoat to justify maybe a different vision of Europe or America is my fear. So I don't want to sound alarmist. I don't want to paint Donald Trump unfairly or some of his followers, that kind of thing. But I feel as a historian and somebody who tries to follow sources and look at what's going on, I at least want to put something in your head you have on your radar. If I'm right in my concerns, then we have to really, there's something here that we need to pay attention to. If I'm wrong, then thank God. I'm perfectly happy to find out that I was just a dumb, over-paranoid, I read too many books and I looked at the wrong media sources, okay? But at this current point, I think that we should realize, we should think about what we value, They're talking about registering Muslims, and I know it's all for the practical purposes of anti-terrorism. But look at who these people are. Look at their vision. Okay? They're saying that certain groups are not compatible with each other. They're saying that they're not racist because they support nations having the right to be separate. They're saying that our society can't get along under these circumstances and this is unhealthy. So here's the question, my friends. If we're supposed to be Andy Griffith's show in America, that's what we're supposed to have happen. And if it's true that their vision is that we have all of these religions and different ethnic groups that are incompatible, if the multiculturalist melting pot doesn't work, then what would be the solution to fix that? Okay? What would be their solution? This is the elephant in the room. And they don't spell it out necessarily explicitly. But if Europeans and Americans want the old Europe and the old America back, then how would you make that happen? You feel me? Where would everybody else go? And this is the tenor, this is the kind of stuff that's being brought up that I think that we need to be hyper vigilant to stand up against, unless you want that. And if that's what you want, then I can't, this is not a good time for me to debate. I'm just saying that we need to realize, like, we need to ask ourselves, what is it that we want? And that how are we getting along as fellow Americans? We have a complex set of situations that politicians got us into, and now that we're here, I think that we should just really reflect. What kind of America do we want this to be? And that's all. Okay. Moving forward with this